Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Scottish Running Podcast with myself, Sean Gaffney, Pete Tucker, and we've got the guy. He's got great blonde hair. He's an athlete who I've known for a long time since I came into running. He is British and Scottish, 100 kilometre champion, the Celtic Anglo Celtic plate champion. The guy, his range from 800 meters up to 100k is incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Mr. Dougie Selman. How you doing, Dougie?
What an introduction. Thanks very much, Sean. Doing good, thanks. Good to see you both.
So
Yeah,
you
Dougie,
too.
thanks for coming on, mate. Yeah, it's a privilege to have you on. Obviously, my teammate from the ACP in when was that? 2022, was that right?
23, I think, yeah, just
But
last year.
sorry, last year, yeah, 23 in Northern Ireland, and obviously this year was your big year. But yeah, no, thanks for coming on. Obviously, we've been trying to pin you down for a while, but you're a busy man in hard training for a little race you've got coming up, I think. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But I tell you, yeah, what I'll do, I'll just kickstart with our little sort of 10 question quick fire round, just to get to know a little bit about you, and then we'll get into the real nitty gritty of your running career. Could be here a while because it's extensive. So, right. So we'll just start off. Yeah. Question one. Your best achievement or proudest PB.
Best achievement probably is my most recent achievement, which was winning the ACP 100K in March this year and qualifying for the World 100K champs in December. Probably a bit of recency bias in there, that being so recent. But yeah, that is probably my best performance, or my proudest achievement at the moment.
Brilliant. Yeah. No, I think that's a pretty good shout. And we should just add there. Correct me if I'm wrong. A course record on the Perth course as well, which again we know some of the caliber of athletes that have been there. So that's pretty good. Is that right? Just to check.
I think that's right. Yeah. I think that is correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
there we go. But yes, like you say, Scottish and 100k champion and secured a Great Britain qualification. We'll come on to that in a bit. All right, moving on. Your favourite male athlete?
Probably I'd probably go for a bit of an old school reference. Well, kind of old school. Do you remember Craig Mottram?
I do,
Yes.
yeah. Wedding runner.
Yeah, so in the sort of mid noughties, Craig Mottram, the Australian runner, was sort of going it alone against the Kenyans and the Ethiopians in the 5K and the 10K scene, and I used to love him. He had some great one-liners in interviews, and yeah, he was a bit of an inspiration for me at that stage. So yeah, I'll go Craig Mottram, or Buster, as I think his nickname was.
Yeah.
What was his nickname?
Buster.
Okay, cool. Now that's a good shout. Yeah, I've not heard much of him for a while. Is he still running these days? Do we know? Do we know what he's up to? Is he up to much these days?
I think he's a coach for
Right.
the on professional group in Australia, I think.
Good stuff. Okay. So moving on, your favourite female athlete?
Easy.
Jenny.
Jenny, yeah.
No, I'm not going to say Jenny, but I'd say Ailish McColgan, my favorite female athlete, for a number of reasons, from longevity, 4 Olympics,
Yeah.
to amazing performances, Commonwealth gold, and but I think just also seeing someone who's able to just go to a place that most athletes aren't able to go, that you see in those longer races.
Yeah.
Um, she's yeah, she's my favorite female athlete, and I'm a bit biased because she's also one of my good friends as well. So yeah, it's an easy one for me.
Good shout. Yeah, you might have seen. She didn't really have much choice. I sort of kind of accosted her at the World Indoors in Glasgow, and I got a wee chat, a wee quick interview with her. So that was good fun. Managed to see her there with
Yeah,
my
I didn't see that actually. Yeah, so
yeah, but no, that's good. Obviously, I think we're showing. Well, I'm certainly showing my age here. Maybe we just got a younger sort of clientele of guests now, because previously I think we've had a few shouts for a mum, but there we
yeah.
go. At least we got the young team in today, so there we go. All right, number four. I know the answer to this one already. Your favourite football team?
I'm a high B, so yeah, I'm quite a part-time supporters these days, to be fair, but you never really move away from your club, do you? So yeah, I'm a Hibs man, so you don't have to complain about that. That doesn't cause you any issues.
I'm just looking here, currently sitting in ninth in the SPL. It's not the only thing I'm slightly embarrassed about, to be honest, is they're below St Johnston, and yeah, that's never good. But I'm sure, yeah, maybe they'll come through.
Early days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the fact that Liverpool are kind of joint top, just only not top on goals scored. I think they're level on goal difference with Man City. The fact that it's early, it doesn't mean anything. So, moving on. Okay, your favourite movie?
Um, if it was the movie that I've watched the most or that I could watch at any time, it would be Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Sean.
Good lad. Good lad.
You want me to say that so you can give me your impression, do you?
I slurp of fat turtles. Yeah, that's not a good chat up line, by the way.
Mate, that is the best Frodo impression I've ever heard. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I can watch Lord of the Rings at any point. I love it. So yeah, I'll stick with that. If I had to pick one, I'd go to the Two Towers purely
Yeah.
for the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Good shout. Okay, brilliant. Moving on, the most interesting person you've met through running.
I when I in about 2011, I was out training in Kenya for a few months, and in the sort of compound that I was staying in was also Jake Robertson. I don't know if you remember Jake and Zane Robertson were the two New Zealand guys who moved out to Kenya age 17 and sort of forged a path out there. And yeah, even at that point they had a pretty crazy story and they were a couple of very interesting guys. So
right.
Yeah, I'd probably go Jake Robertson because he was living there at the time, and Zane was there every so often too. But yeah, definitely very interesting guys.
Cool. I reckon there's a few more stories in there. I'll maybe try and fish them out of you off air because I reckon there's a bit more to it. But yeah, okay, good shout. And yeah, your favourite race?
Got a few different ones, but I'd probably go Valencia Marathon.
Yeah.
I've done that a couple of times, one more successfully than the other, but
yeah,
the whole marathon weekend's really good. Like the city's really cool. There's a really good atmosphere for the sort of Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
You get pretty reliable weather. The race is flat, fast, good competition, and it's just like it's a nice setup because you kind of run in the morning and then you can relax with a few drinks in the afternoon in the sunshine afterwards. So
sounds ideal, yeah.
And you had very good company after the marathon.
Yeah, there was a really good group of guys out there from last year.
Yeah,
we managed to.
And it's a December marathon, isn't it? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, it's early December. It's a good time of year as well to run a marathon, I think, because you get your race in at the start of a month of sort of festivities, and then you can kind of relax a bit for the rest of December. So, yeah, big fan of that one. But
okay, great. And that's where you've got your marathon PBs from Valencia. Is that right?
Yeah, last year in Valencia was my PB. Yeah.
So what we're saying is December's a good time of year for you to be running really well. So that bodes well for later.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. And your favourite session?
So I really like just at the moment just a steady long run where I'm just clicking into a good rhythm and ticking off 30 to 40k of running, but that's super boring. So if I was going for an actual session, I'd probably go for 10 by 3 minutes. That's my like classic go-to session. If I'm not sure what to do, I'd do 10 by 3 minutes with a minute or 90 seconds or 2 minutes. Doesn't really matter, but 3-minute reps. I've got a loop that I love doing that round in Edinburgh, and that's my sort of my comfort session.
Great. So that's a solid session. I think it's quite a well known, a well run, tried and tested sort of. But so just to check, 3 minutes as opposed to 10 times a k. Why are we running to time and not distance? I mean, I'm not. You know better than I. But what's the thinking there?
I actually don't know. I sometimes make it 10 by a k as well, but I don't know. 10 by 3 minutes just sounds nicer in my head.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So again, just so I can get it in my head, if we were looking at 10 times a K, I mean, obviously, again, it can vary where depending on where you are in your training cycle, or like you say, what the recovery is. But what we kind of looking at on a good day then, if we're 10 times a K, what reps are we looking to hit?
It can really range. So I think the most recent time I did 10 by a K with or 10 by was it 10 by a K I did? Doesn't make a difference. I did about 10 by a K with a minute in around 301, 302
Okay.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, I might be making up my recovery there. Maybe it was 9 seconds. I can't remember. They all kind of phase into one, but I'm usually, kind
Yeah.
of between low 3 minutes to mid 3 minutes. Sometimes faster if you're fitter, but at the moment I'm generally getting a bit slower. So yeah.
No, that's decent stuff.
That's probably the real answer as to why I'm saying 3 minutes rather than a K, because I can that I'm not just gradually getting slower.
Fair enough. I like the thinking there. I think I should be switching to time reps as definitely not distance. Okay. Your favorite food?
I knew you were going to ask me this one, so I was thinking through what my answer would be, and I was thinking, is it fish and chips? Is it burger and chips? Is it steak and chips? So like the common theme there is chips. So something and chips is probably my answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just tend to eat carbs on top of carbs with a side of carbs on the side. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the chips. But it's interesting. I don't know, because obviously I'd say you're East Coast, aren't you? Is that right? Compared to where I am at the minute.
Yeah,
So so fish and chips. I mean, that's normally an English. I mean, apparently it's a fish supper. I mean, you're a fish and chips man, are you? Or are you a fish supper guy? What's the difference there?
it's mainly they're not type of fish. Do you not have the wrong type of fish in England? Do you not?
Well, listen, as far as I'm aware,
You guys are cod, are you?
avid listeners can correct me, but like when I was down the road, I would just go to my fish and chip shop and just say, "Can I have fish and chips, please?" Which would just be normally just cod and chips. But basically, fish and chips up here seems to be a fish shop. If I go into a chip shop where in Glasgow and ask for fish and chips, they'll look at me blankly and they'll just go, "What, a fish supper?" And I
Yeah,
go,
fish. Yeah. That is the correct terminology.
"Oh,
Yeah,
is it right? Okay."
but yeah, it's the chip
Fair
that matters.
fair enough. All right, moving on. Do you have a phobia or a pet hate?
Yeah, I've got plenty of pet hates. Yeah, for a running podcast, I'll say somebody like clipping your heels multiple times in a race. I think there should be a rule that if the
Yeah,
same person clips your heels 3 times, it's an automatic DQ.
yeah, fair enough. And who was the last person that did that to you? Let's name and shame them.
No, I can't. I can't.
Fair enough. Yeah.
In the
No.
race, in the race, but it should be a red flag offence.
Listen, I'll have a quiet word with Jenny next time she does that to you. Because, yeah, I mean, I'd like to say she did that to me, but yeah, I don't think I was ever in front of her the one time I've raced her. But I'm going to come on to that as well. So, but yeah, so right, the next question is normally about poker, but I'm not even going to ask it because I keep getting told off for asking stupid questions. So, so no, that's pretty much it. No, thanks for going through that with me. But yeah, obviously we're going to talk about a certain race you're training for that you've got coming up. But yeah, just interested to know a little bit. I mean, as I said, I've done as I said, I call it research, not stalking. I've done a little bit of a digging into your sort of background, but just tell us a brief little bit about your sort of personal life and your background with running, how you got into it. I mean, I believe you started running as an under 13, so just a little bit about your journey. And as Sean's already alluded to, you've got a really impressive range from being an 800-meter runner and now an ultra runner. So yeah, just a little bit about your personal life, your training, your background, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, so my running background is a pretty conventional story. Got into it through school, really. Late primary school, early high school. I think I started going down to Christorfin Athletics Club, which is my local club, still my club
Yeah.
today. And immediately was kind of more interested in the middle distance type events. It was pretty clear I wasn't going to be a thrower or a jumper. I think probably as soon as people saw me try and do anything with any amount of power or hand-eye coordination. And yeah, just got involved in the cross country scene, track races in the summer, and I was sort of running 800s, 1500s until my sort of early 20s, and I've sort of progressed up through the distances from there. Started training for marathons in the sort of around about 2014, 2015. And yeah, I've just gone right up through the distances to the ultras now. But yeah, so a pretty normal running
Yeah,
background, Scottish club based, and yeah, I've never looked back since I started.
good stuff. Sean, I'll let you get a word in since I'm doing most of the talking.
No, I was just going to say, but I've known you. No, I joined running when I was, 15, 16, which is considered late, for a junior. I just remember being at, at the Craiggordy at Scottish schools telling me, oh, that guy over there, Mark Mitchell, he runs this time, and there's Dougie Selman, he runs this time, and you were really good at, 8 and 15 in your kind of late high school days, early under 20 days, and you ran like 150 for 800, that is an incredible time, and seeing you that video of you at the 100K, you were about 10 seconds back and then you kicked in and got for the win. I was just like, I was just want to ask you, what was more painful, your 800 coming into the last 100, or was it going for the win at the 100K? What one was the biggest lactic fatigue slash excruciating pain?
Well, the 800s, which my 800 PB is from 2006, embarrassingly. So my memories of it are not that great anymore. I think, yeah, do you know what? Probably the 800 is more dramatically sore, but after the 100K that is the most exhausted I've felt. I've just completely exhausted. So rather than just having like the dramatic lactic pain that you get in an eight, I was just completely empty after the 100K. So it's kind of a different feeling. Hard to say which one is worse than the other, but the 100K takes a lot longer to recover from. That's for sure.
Have you ever seen the pictures of Pete from the 100K when he ran it just for the club? There's a picture of him in the first 10K. There's a picture of him coming into the last lap, and I've never seen a guy age so much in a race my whole life.
That's true. Yeah.
That's what
So
running for 7 hours around the park will do to you.
yeah,
Yeah, as opposed to 1 minute and 51 seconds. Not that I ever covered 800 in that time, but no, yeah, I mean, 151, isn't it? That's 2006. So, yeah, impressive range. And that speed clearly, because obviously I had the privilege of being there this year just as a spectator. As I said, I've done it the previous 2 years, but decided to give it a miss this year. But yeah, it was a great day at Norfinch. Watching you flying around, is it 42 laps? And then, so yeah, just tell us. I mean, I know obviously I had the privilege of catching up with you afterwards as well. We had a little chat then, but again, just talk us through that last lap. I mean, going into it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you were confident you'd had it won until that last maybe even 400 meters. So just talk us through the pain of that last lap, and again the home support. I know you talked about that before, but how much that helped you.
Yeah, I mean the last lap of that race was easier than the laps that
Really?
preceded it. So,
Yeah,
which is kind of that's so I've done 200Ks now, and that is kind of my experience both times. Is that once you can sort of see the finish line and you're into the last lap,
yeah,
it gets quite a lot easier because you're almost there. And then 100K, I've found you tend to kind of give up mentally before your body is actually giving up.
yeah,
So yeah, that probably the last from about 4 laps to go to 3 laps to go were the worst ones of that race in Perth because you're just like you're basically falling apart and you're running really your
yeah,
knee lift is not going anywhere and you're aware you're running really slow, but it's really hard to pick your pace up. So yeah, they were probably the harder laps. Going into the last lap, I'd managed to close the gap slightly, so I had kind of a positive feeling going into that last lap, and yeah, like you alluded to, it was very late in the day that I caught up to James Turner, who'd had the lead going into the last lap, and in the last sort of 600 to 800 meters went past and managed to pull away for the win. And yeah, it was pretty unexpected because I didn't think with 3 or 4 laps to go I'd have that chance. But yeah, really glad I managed to take advantage of it. Once you've run for that amount of time, you want to make sure that you make it count because
Yeah.
a lot of effort goes in.
Yeah, no, brilliant run, obviously, and yeah, great from your support team. Obviously, you had Jenny on hand there, and I think Debbie helping out as well with the Scottish team. So yeah, it's a great run, and yeah, so you've got a race coming up in December then. So been selected for Great Britain then, your first GB vest. I know you run for Scotland a few times in the past. I think in your a bit of a I think the term that's been used before was international wilderness for a period of time, but certainly ran for Scotland as a youngster and a few other times, and then more recently in the ACP and now GB. So yeah, December. It's in India, Bangalore, if that's the correct pronunciation. 7th of December. So how's the training going for that, and what are you doing sort of differently to sort of prepare for that and acclimatise?
Yeah, the training's going fine for it. So since the 100K in March, I've been trying to, well, the initial period was trying to recover from that, and then I've been trying to get a little bit quicker, but whilst also not losing too much of the strength, which is a really difficult balance to strike. I've kind of felt like I've been, one session trying to do some speed work, and then the next session just almost totally counteracting it with a really long run. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've just been basically doing some slightly different stuff to try and slightly rebalance my body. I feel like I've kind of done that a little bit. Probably not had the sort of faster, shorter race results that I would have wanted over the last couple of weeks, but happy enough with that block. And now there's sort of 12 and a half weeks to go until the race. So I'm starting to transition towards the full training block um for the race in India. And you probably have a couple of weeks of building up into that, and then a sort of 9 or 10 week proper build for the race.
Okay.
Which will a lot of that will look pretty similar to what I've done before, but with added elements of heat preparation work because the
Yeah.
conditions in India are going to be very different to March and to Perth in March.
Yeah, definitely. Again, you'll correct me. I don't know if this is specifically related to preparation, but rumours I've heard is that you had a 43-degree bath the other day with a wee duck. I mean, so what I was interested to know, does the duck have a name? Are you taking the duck to India with you?
I don't think I've named him Derek the duck.
Yeah,
Just
good.
After
yeah,
Derek Hawkins, maybe? Or...
after Derek. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is, John. Yeah. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to take him to India. I know it's probably not much use in having
Yeah.
a baby bath thermometer out there, but yeah, I've been doing a few things to try and start doing some heat prep. So even things like layered runs
Yeah, yeah.
on the treadmill. The bath thing is like going for a run in temperate, so normal conditions to raise the core temperature and then go straight into a hot bath
Right.
for 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes doing a similar thing, but going into a sauna for a prolonged period. So there are all sorts of things that you can do. And yeah, I've done a couple of longer blocks over the summer where I've done maybe like 7 or 8 days of consecutive work like that. And then for the next 6 weeks, done a couple of days per week of heat stuff to top up and keep a sort of adaptation there. So yeah, I'm just trying to sort of experiment with different things and see what will work. It's not particularly scientific. I'm not really doing, huge amounts of testing to see if it's going to work, but
Yeah.
yeah, trying to do that relatively consistently and measure some progress where I can, and hopefully it'll all add together to help me a little bit come December the 7th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. Obviously,
Could,
yeah. Sorry, go on, Sean.
no, I was just going to say, you could say maybe give Callum Hawkins a message. I think for Doha, he basically bought a bunch of Aldi heaters and just hooked them up to go on at the same time in his garage and his treadmill. And he says he got it up to a right good temperature, and he was just doing runs in the treadmill with all these heaters, 3 bars full, and the place was roasting. So could be something to look at. But the only thing is the electricity bill.
Yeah, no, I definitely I think that would probably be better than my system at the moment, because my system at the moment is just to run on the treadmill, but in loads of layers, which it does get you pretty hot, but then you're like you basically soak those layers with sweat, and then you're just like it's just horrible by the end of it. So I feel like the heaters would be a better way of doing it, but I just haven't been organized enough to purchase
Well, as well
whatever
as the Aldi heaters, there are other supermarkets available, or
I need.
other retailers. We should just say that, and also just, I mean, maybe we could discuss this off. But where I work, some of my clientele, I'm pretty sure there's a guy that can rig a meter for about 20 quid. So if you're worried about the electricity bills, just let me know. But of course, it's no affiliation with myself, but I just know someone who knows someone. But or there's the tried and tested bin liners, of course, bin bags, getting out there and sweating on the run. So, but no, it sounds like you know. I mean, listen, just to say, so you on your debut, fifth place in Northern Ireland, where I had the privilege of running alongside you. Well, parts of the race, 6:47 there, great debut, and then down to 6:34. So obviously, really good improvement. I think from just listening to some of your other stuff, you weren't quite expecting to run that quick. So and again, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you knew exactly what time you were running for until the latter stages. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about the training block in between that, because if I'm right in saying I think you did some work on that sort of psychology, the psychological aspect of it, and also some strength training. And I don't know these guys, but just from doing a bit of research, you had is it Kenny Watt, a guy that did sort of an assessment with you, and then a chap, is it Rory Downey, I believe, is he been quite pivotal in helping you with sort of strength program? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like you said there, I did my first one in Northern Ireland in 2023, the first 100K that I'd done, and that was the first race that I'd done longer than a marathon. So I did quite a big jump in one go up to the ultra, and learned a lot
Yeah.
in terms of what worked for that preparation, and then what I was probably lacking in the race.
Okay.
And the main things that I sort of felt like I needed to work on were muscle strength. When I got past about 60 to 65K in the race in Northern Ireland, I really started to struggle, just like with my legs feeling really, really tired. So I felt like I needed to do something there. I felt like I was also getting low on energy despite taking in as many carbs as I could possibly take in. So that was one of the things I thought I probably needed to get more efficient with how I was using the fuel sources that I had.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, like you sort of alluded to, was psychology. And I mentioned earlier, I've found that you tend to give up a bit in 100K before you actually physically are packing in. You kind of throw the towel in because it's just unpleasant and you don't want
Yeah.
to. So they were kind of the three main things that I was trying to work on in between. And the things that I did involved a couple of things you mentioned there. So working with Kenny Watt and with Rory Downey to sort of try and become a bit more athletic by getting in the gym and work out how I could maybe become a bit more efficient running wise. I hadn't really done any gym work or any sort of strength and conditioning for a number of years, and as soon as I went in a gym, that was pretty evident. Like I was really uncoordinated, really pretty weak. Even things like doing a hop, like I couldn't really hop without wobbling about all over the place. I couldn't really step off a box without looking stupid. I couldn't jump more than like however many inches. So it was really quite humbling initially, but did basically a concerted block of work on that to try and get a bit more efficient, with the aim basically of reducing my sort of energy expenditure in a race, which would be one way of potentially making me a bit more fuel efficient when I came around to doing it again. And then I did a whole range of other things, like doing some runs with a sort of lower carb intake going into them, doing runs on hillier terrain, changing the balance of my training. So I was doing a higher proportion of it closer to 100k pace and reducing the speed work, particularly in the build up.
Right.
So they were all sort of different things that I was doing to improve my sort of physical attributes going into the race. And then there was a whole load of other work in terms of sort of psychological preparation for the 100k as well. And I think all of that sort of knitted together to help me make a significant improvement in this year's race. And it's hard to tell which things worked more than
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
others, but it's probably just the cumulative effect of everything that adds up.
Okay. So just on that note, you're talking about some of the 100k stuff. Was there? I mean, a lot of people kind of, I guess, have like an A target, if you like, and a B target. So was there a rough kind of time in mind going into Perth this year?
No, not really. No, I didn't really have any sort of time in
Right.
mind. It's really hard to know, I think, what you're going to do over 100k because you don't come particularly close to running 100k in your training.
Yeah.
So obviously you'll know from preparing for a marathon that you know you're never running a full out marathon in training. You're only running a certain percentage of it. So there's an element of unknown there, but that's almost like exaggerated in 100k because you don't really ever run further than 60k in training.
Yeah.
So if you feel good for 60k, that's still basically a marathon less than what you're going to do. So
Yeah.
you can do all the training that you like and get an indication of how fit you are, but you never really know what's going to happen
Hmm.
in the race. So I found it was better not to really have a that fixed a target of what I was going to do and just
Right.
over time learn what's the right sort of effort and what's the right sort of RPE that I should be working to
Yeah.
that and then just be pretty flexible in the race in terms of what I was going to do. And I had no idea what different splits would be. I didn't know
Really.
pace until I heard someone tell someone partway through the race that we were on course for 6:32, which
Yeah.
is never a time I would have aimed for. But yeah, I think that was kind of testament to the fact that not knowing exactly what I was going to do was better
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
really you're just battling against yourself in the race, and there's having a specific time goal I think is pretty irrelevant because yeah, you can't do that much about it when you get to
No.
the race itself.
That's interesting. I'll maybe try and take some of that on board myself. So just with that just with the 200Ks you've done, what were your longest runs there? Was it did you go above 60K? And how did that vary from the first year to the second year? And with the sort of the longest one, I know you talked about not really having a set pace or target time for the race, but I guess you were looking at a rough ballpark figure of a certain pace on those training runs though. So what were the sort of the longest runs of the two separate years, and what were you looking at kind of pace wise with that? Or again, were you just running to feel?
So longest run in each build was 60k.
Right.
I actually ran them faster, I think, in the build for the first 100k. But I don't think that actually helped me too much when it
Right.
came
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
100k. I probably just was running slightly harder than I needed to in that 60k, and I don't think it really prepared me any better
Yeah.
for running 100k.
Yeah. Yeah.
My training blocks for each one didn't look massively different. I probably just did a bit more of everything in the second block, and I changed the percentages of. I basically changed the balance of my training, so I reduced a little bit of the faster work and increased a bit
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
more work at 100k pace. And I did 360k runs over a 9 week block rather than two the first time.
Okay.
And I did more things like back to back days where I would do maybe 40k on the Saturday with a bit of a session in there and then 40k on a hilly route on the Sunday. And so I was kind of like tweaking details rather than making massive changes. So there were those things that I mentioned there. I would fuel slightly differently in the second build up than I did in the first build up. So I
Yeah.
would reduce carb intake on a few of the runs. Um, I wouldn't run in carbon shoes on every run in the second block like I did the first block because I
Yeah.
was trying to strengthen my legs a little bit. Um, but it was more sort of refinements in the second block rather than.
No, that's really interesting, and obviously it's great info for me as well. You might have seen there. I've actually just taken some notes, so I've jotted some of that down. Whether I can utilise any of that or not remains to be seen. But no, that's really interesting, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be interested to hear that as well. If I'll be honest, we did actually have someone message us a while ago saying, or someone messaged me saying, Pete, can you get somebody who was in the ACB team, another one of the 100k runners to come on, because we'd like to hear from them. So I mean, I think me and Sean have delivered today. You can't get much better than the British 100k champion. So so no, that's great information. And I meant to say, I'd read somewhere that you tried some sort of unfueled runs as well, and then there was also a mention about the flat coke and taking that on a bit earlier. Is that in the actual race day? Is that right?
Yeah, so I changed my nutrition plan a wee bit this year. The first year I was pretty rigid in terms of what I was going to do for the full 100k. I had a specific plan of exactly what I should be taking at every single aid station from the start to the finish. And that was also one of the things that I'd felt I probably hadn't done quite right, because in the sort of last 30k of that race, where I was really starting to struggle, and going back to that point that I was saying earlier, but I was kind of giving up mentally a little bit. I was sick of the drinks. I wasn't enjoying taking the gels on anymore. I was just really sort of in a slump in that race. And one of the things that I changed this year was I wanted to give myself little triggers to snap me out of that sort of negative slump if it happened. And things that could be things like just changing my nutrition. So rather than taking on the same carb drink that I'd been taking on for 60k, I'll just have some Coke, some flat Coke, because it's just a flavor change. It's something a bit nicer.
Yeah.
And I deliberately planned to get to sort of 60k and then be much more flexible in my nutrition and change things. And I'd just say to Jenny, actually, next lap I want this rather than that.
Okay.
And I think that just helped keep me on a much more even keel throughout the whole race this time. So I never really had too much of a real sort of slump in the race where I was throwing away huge amounts of time like I'd had in 2023.
Yeah.
So I don't really think it was specifically having Coke that made a big difference to my performance. I think it was more just like having something to snap me out of a negative spiral, which I didn't have the year before, and as a result threw away a lot of time. And when you're in 100k, you can be throwing away like 2, 3, 4 minutes just by not really trying for a couple of laps.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good thing, taking on the Coke if you're taking on a normal sports drink, just for the taste buds. If you're taking on Coke, it just keeps your brain a bit more. Oh, there's something different hitting me now. It just keeps your
and it's
brain kind of
like,
active.
like at a basic level, it's sugar, a bit of caffeine. It's gonna give you it's gonna give you some fuel. It's gonna give you a little boost. It's not super scientific, but it's gonna give you a little bit of something to keep you going. And but yeah, I think like having anything like that you think is going to make you um think about something different or just feel a bit more positive is probably what you need in those moments, which are definitely going to come at some point in that race. So it's worth planning for them before you go in, so you're preempting them rather than dealing with it unexpectedly.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely, man. I just couldn't imagine. I don't know how you two guys. I very rarely give Pete praise, but I couldn't imagine doing a 100k. I think marathon is my whack. I just you get to run for 6.5 to about 7.5 hours. It's wow. I
Yeah.
feel like
Hey
that.
though, come on, it's fine. It's 4 hours. It just coasting by. You get
Yeah,
Yeah, Sean, like you said there, let's put this into perspective here. You need to add on the best part of an hour for myself if we're talking to Mr. Selman here. So let's get that right. But obviously I've got unfinished business where I do intend to return to 100k. That's the plan, whether that happens or not. Because currently training for Frankfurt Marathon and it is not going well at all. Just really, really sluggish. Not hitting anywhere near it. But maybe I should take a leaf out of Dougie's book and not worry quite so much about the pace. I think I just need to focus and get out there and get some running in because yeah, and hopefully something will click at some point. And normally it would started to have clicked a little bit by now, but well, I think maybe 7 or so weeks to go. So we'll see. Maybe I'll turn the corner soon.
That's plenty of time.
Yeah, exactly, mate. That's it. So, yeah, just I tell you what, actually, Sean, I wanted to ask you a question for you, actually, Sean, just to mix it up a little bit. What's the
Oh,
one? What's the one thing that you look forward to every year?
the one thing I don't really know. I still stay with my mum and dad, so waking
You
up in
do.
the morning, get my presents,
Well, it's funny you say that. So that yeah, that brings me on because my there's one thing in particular. Now I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Sean. You should be, but there's one thing that I look forward to every year, and it is in December as well. And I do like Christmas, but there's one thing even more exciting than that. And there's a guy in particular who he's very kind of he's not your biggest man on social media. He posts on average one post a year on Facebook, normally around December time, and that as any one of his 554 Facebook friends, 18 of them I'm mutual friends with, will know is Dougie Selman's yearly review, which is something
Oh,
that is really the highlight of my calendar. So, Dougie, yeah, tell us a little bit about. In fact, I'm going to just have a quick look. I think 2023 you gave yourself an F. Now, I'll be honest, when I've been looking at this form book, because I'm new to the. Obviously, I've only known you a couple of years. Sort of only known you well the last couple of years. I'm seeing an FFG, FFB star, GGF. Now, initially, I thought they were like. I thought you were just being really hard on yourself, and you were giving yourself like a G, as in like A, B, C down to G. But if I'm not mistaken, F is fine, G's good, B's bad. So so last year was fine. Yeah, am I right? Tell me about the yearly review.
Yeah, just like you say, I sort of rank my year. I mean, every year you get to December and there's a barrage of Facebook posts and people telling you how good their year has been. And I think initially I started off thinking it'd be quite funny if I just have a sort of satirical post around my year just being fine. And then I've just kept doing it every year, and it's a bit longer. And now the joke's on me because I now do an annual review when I was initially trying to be ironic. So there, make of that what you will. But yeah, so I basically rank it fine, bad, or good. And
Fine, bad, good, right? Yeah, as I said, I was just checking because and as I said initially, I thought you're being really harsh on yourself here. Like, whether that's your running achievements, but an F and a G, like I think you've done a bit better than that. Like, I was thinking that like an A was the top level, but no, it's just fine, good, and bad then.
yeah, I think that sums it up, doesn't it? There's a little bit of context I'll give in the narrative as well, to sort of expand on it. And for bad, there's only been one bad year, and I gave that a little asterisk to
That was
say it had some redeeming features because I feel like saying a whole year's bad is that's
yeah,
pretty.
and that was 2020, wasn't it? I believe so.
I mean, COVID, there's a lot of things weren't great that year, so.
Yeah, and obviously, I think the one of the first good year I've got here, 2016. Is that's the year you got married as well? I don't know if that's a coincidence or whether that's part of the ranking system there.
Yeah, got married, ran a marathon. Really can't remember what else happened in 2016. The review will presumably remind me if I go back and look through.
Good
But
stuff. Good stuff.
talking about, getting married, I think, people talk about, Butcher and Lindsay Sharp being the, well, Lindsay Butcher being the power couple, but, I think you and Jenny are quite the Scottish athletics power couple now. These are both competing. Jenny won the Edinburgh Half Marathon, your British 100K champ, so I don't know, Dougie. I think you have got a strong case for being Scottish athletics power couple.
I think, yeah. I mean, Jenny's stepped up to the half marathon there. Decided, I think she never wants to do another one. Probably go back down to the eights and 15s. Yeah, I don't know about a power couple, but yeah, we're both pretty keen on the old running, but different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, in fact,
And
Sean, sorry, that brings me on. I think you were actually speculating to me earlier. I think you were wondering about the beginnings of the Selman relationship, weren't you? Did you have a question there for Dougie, I believe?
yeah, so obviously you met through running, but what was the first date though? Was it like 5 times a K or a couple of 400s or?
No, our first date. So if any, most people obviously won't know this, but Jenny has multiple like quite serious food allergies. And our first date, we went out for dinner, and Jenny went into anaphylactic shock on the way home, and we went to hospital. So
Right.
Wow.
that was our first date. It was much less romantic than that. So yeah, we ended up in A&E, I think that day. So
Wow.
that was one to remember.
Yeah, that is what I remember. I'm glad to see she's doing okay now. That's I
Yeah.
mean, it's seeing my brain, see if it was me, I'd be like that. She meant that just so she could get out the date and that. That was one of the questions I said to Pete. I was like, I wonder what the first date was. 5 times a K, couple of 400s, whatever.
Definitely wouldn't be 5 times a day with Jenny. You wouldn't. You'd probably have to go like 8 200s or something like that. That's
Really?
yeah. She's a speed girl.
She is. She
Ah,
is. Yeah, I wanted to ask you actually. Has Jenny actually ever beaten you in a race?
And I don't know if she's beaten me in a race, but if we had a race right now, she would beat me over quite a few distances, I imagine. Or maybe not right now because she's been a little injured. I'd race her right now, but there's been a lot of times in the last few years where I would have definitely avoided that where I could.
Yeah, see, my wife's beating me in a race, and she's not even a runner. But I'm not sure I am. But yeah, no, she beat me in a race, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before in another episode, but as the term you would use up here, I was pure raging. I couldn't work out what it was a race on the beach, maybe about I don't know 100 meters, and yeah, we I think we even had a rematch, and it got worse, and I couldn't work out like I was like I'm fasting, I can't work out what is going on, and it was only when later I actually realised. I mean, whether you just say I'm getting the excuses in, but I was on the really wet, like sludgy part of the beach, and my feet it was like quick running in quicksand, and I hadn't realised she was on the firm part of the beach. Well, that's my excuse anyway. But and she was just like giggling away, and yeah, but yeah, at least you've not had to suffer that humiliation of being beaten by your wife. Although it wouldn't be humiliation with the caliber of athlete that Jenny is.
Yeah, no, I would I'd hold my hands up if I got beaten by Jenny now. She's she's got some pedigree.
She has. Well, in fact, that's it. I've heard another word being used. I think Selmania is the phrase. You know, in the Selman running household, there's a real buzz of how well you guys are going. And but I think it's fair for me, as I alluded to earlier. I think I've just made a new word up. If it's the right term, I don't know if you're happy for me to use this phrase, but I think I've been Selmanized because I've basically been beaten by you and Jenny. In fact, so not that I'm bitter or anything, but just looking at my power of 10 head to head here, which I did have a look at earlier today. Let's have a look. So where are we? Dougie Selman. Yeah, I think you're 6-0 to me. So the Renfrewshire 5 mile race in February 2018, which you won, I think. Did you win that? Can you remember that? February 2018? You won't remember racing me because I was back in eighth, but I think you won it that year, did you?
I could have done, yeah. I've done it a couple of times, and I maybe did win it one year, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
Tom Scott in 2018. There's been a few cross countries, but I don't think they count. I'll come on to that. There's a reason why they don't count. And then obviously the 100K. So yeah, I'm 6-0 down at the minute. And I've raced Jenny once, which was at Silverno's this year in the 5K. And,
To
and, she,
get you.
and she smashed me up. So yeah, got some work to do there. And on the note of head to head, Sean, are you aware of what our head to head is, mate?
I couldn't care less, but I just remember that at the national in February, I absolutely took your pants down and spanked your wee bum for you. So I
You
did.
did. That's the last time we raced, I believe. So you're only as good as
Yeah,
your last race.
yeah.
But
And
it's
you know something, Pete? See that day,
tell me,
I
tell
sat
me.
behind you through the whole first lap, and I was waiting on a photographer. And then
Yeah,
it got to the point I was like, I can't see a photographer anymore because I wanted to get the photographer to get us in a picture of me going by
yeah.
you, but I just decided, nah, I'm bored now. I need to kick on.
Okay. Well, listen, it's currently. I'm actually slightly embarrassed or annoyed by this, but it's currently 10-4 to me, and you won't be surprised to know, as I said, cross. Do they all four of those that you beat me in a cross country? So I've decided I'm retiring from cross country. I'm not. So you've won that. I'm not racing you in cross country ever again. But if you want to race me on a flat road, any time, any place, that I'm not extending that invitation to Dougie just yet. I need to get some miles in and try and work out how to run 100k without dying on my ass. So, but yeah.
Maybe you need to have a rematch against Jenny.
Yeah, that's probably more appropriate. Yeah. Although I
That is
don't think
something we
that's
can
going to go
organise.
any better. Yeah, we can make that happen. Obviously, yeah, we've got friends in high places since we know her husband, so we'll maybe see if we can get. I mean, Sean. I mean, I think we both tried to get Jenny on, but we couldn't, could we? So we got Dougie on instead. But yeah, no, yeah. Well, I'm up for that rematch at some point anyway with Jenny. Whether it's maybe 5k is a good distance, but I need to get around my cheat loop and get some faster reps in, I think.
Well, I was actually thinking, how you get the mixed relays now at the Olympics? We could have
Yeah.
like a Scottish athletics power couple mixed relay. So you could have like Butcher and Lindsay Sharp and Dougie and Jenny, Eilish and like I know Mike Grimmer is not really Scottish, but like you could have, you could, do some, let's say, a 1,500 meters each, that could be quite the event for Scottish athletics at a wee indoor meet or something.
I think Jenny and I are in trouble in that competition.
No, I do. Well, was it Lindsay's retired now, and so is Mike Rimmer. So only two big threats are,
You're bringing me down
Eilish.
from 100k to 1500 though.
Yeah, but look at your power of 10 though, Dickie. I mean, and then everybody seen that finish at the 100k. That was pure 8 and 15 speed coming through.
Yeah, I think it was a 335k to bring it home. Just my arms were moving fast. So
Oh yeah,
it's an illusion.
but
So go on,
uh,
Sean.
no, on you go, Pete. On you go.
I just say, Dougie, and also just to talking a lot about your running there and your training and stuff. Just a little bit about your personal life. The reason I bring this up, just in terms of your sort of work and that, how are you finding the kind of work life balance with your running? Because the reason I ask that is obviously I've commented on it before, but we often see a lot of your Fay and Tay or to and from in English. Sometimes there's a Tay and a Fay plus. I'm assuming that's your commute into work, and so where are we? It's your senior legal counsel, I believe. Is that correct? For Bailey Gifford. So tell us how's work going, and how are you managing to get your training in with your, which I'd imagine is quite a stressful and a lot of responsibility with that job.
Yes, so I work for an investment management business, Bailey Gifford, and yeah. So they're actually really supportive of my running, and
That's good.
yeah, but it is challenging sometimes combining running with full-time work, as I'm sure everybody who listens to your podcast will know. But I'm lucky I'm able to do a lot of my training on the commute to and from work. I can clock up a lot of miles doing that. And yeah, there's times in the year where if you're training for a big race, you're sort of spending quite a lot of your time outside of work running. But I like doing it. It's like a hobby as well as something that I take probably more seriously than that in some ways. But um, yeah, it's easy enough to combine, and I actually find doing the longer stuff that's slightly less intense easier to combine with work, because
Yeah,
you don't really have to get yourself as up for a session as you would if you were going to the track and training for an 800,
yeah,
1500. Like your training can just be running 6 minute miling or
yeah.
6 minute miling.
So how far is are you kind of based in the one? Are you based in like a fixed place? How far is your work from where you are then?
So it's about 5 miles if I go
Okay,
direct. So yeah, in the morning I'll just do 5 miles. It's straight along like a super busy
right.
road. So it's a really uninspiring route. But in the
Yeah,
morning I tend to just want to get there. And then
yeah.
on the way back I'll extend it a little bit. So that's why you see the Fay pluses in there.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, that's all with the laptop on the back. So
All right, okay. But I guess
there's
I guess it
extra
kills.
resistance training there.
I guess it kills two birds with one stone though, and just in terms, even just that the little extra bit of time you're saving there, I guess that helps as well.
Yeah. It's super convenient, and you don't have to like get back in from work and then go back out for a run like you would if you were on the bus or any other sort of way of traveling home. So yeah, it makes it a lot easier to get the miles in and get the time on feet.
Great stuff, great stuff. Listen, I've got a few more. I'll be honest, I'm not. I've got a few sort of notes here. They kind of jump to and fro. Some of it all over the place. Obviously, you talk about your work there. But I think where was it? You were at Edinburgh Uni. I think first class honours bachelor in law. That's impressive. And then Dundee Uni, diploma in legal practice. I mean, I got a diploma when I was on holiday in Tenerife. I won a table tennis match and I got a certificate that's a diploma on it. But I think diploma in legal practice is a bit more impressive. And you've athletics coaching at Falkirk Council for a bit. And also, was it one of the schools you were doing a bit of work there? So you've obviously done a little bit of coaching yourself. Are you still is coaching something you're looking to sort of get back into at some point? Are you giving sort of any advice out to people at the moment?
Nothing, no coaching at the moment. Yeah, I think it would be like a really good thing to get into, and I'd maybe quite like to do it at some point. But I
Yeah.
think it's quite difficult, I think, to really do that while you're spending a lot of time on your own training.
Mm-hmm.
So there might come a time where I do sort of do a bit more of that, but and I did think about that a few years ago, but since then I've kind of had a bit more of a resurgence in my own running, and that's kind of where my focus is a bit more just now rather than the coaching. But I really like thinking about the things that I'm doing in my own training. So I'm sure there could come a point where I actually want to do that in more of a coaching capacity.
Good stuff, good stuff. And so just to touch on obviously the uni days. So it was Edinburgh Uni, I think, initially, obviously, and then the sort of the diploma at Dundee. I think I'd spoken to you before because randomly it must have been after my viral video of you post ACP, where I was privileged enough to have a chat with you after the race. Someone had seen it, and it's basically somebody I know. He's a friend of a friend. I don't know him that well, but I do know him. I've been on a stag do with him in Benidorm, for example. But I'm going to read a message from here. So we were referring to yourself, and he said, I met talking about yourself. He said, I met him once or twice a long time ago. I ran the Braids Hill cross country in Edinburgh, and Edinburgh Uni students let us sleep on their floor. A few years later, Swansea Uni held the Booster, the British champs or Uni champs, whatever it's called now, and Dougie was on my floor. Pretty sure you know one of the other lads. So yeah, so do you recall that, sleeping on the floor somewhere at a uni and then doing a race?
Yeah, yeah, I think that so was that Swansea, did you say for
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was in like my second year at uni. It was doing the yeah, it was Booster still then. It's Bucks now, I think.
Right, okay.
And that was at the stage when I was still doing 800s and 1500s, and I absolutely hated cross country. So I'd presumably just like mumped and won my way around a 12K cross country, and then gone out to console myself after.
Do you still have that hatred for cross country now to this day?
It's definitely my worst surface. Like I find it on a muddy day, I'm pretty useless on the cross. But in saying that, the cross country events are the best ones on the domestic calendar. You know, things like
Yeah.
national cross relays and national cross are really good events. I just wish I was slightly better at them.
Great, fair enough. And so, like, just moving a couple of more. I haven't got sort of much more. I don't know if I'm sure Sean's got a couple of other things, but just to touch on or back onto your more sort of current run in. So we had the Antrim half, I believe, end of August, 69:30, and then Stirling more recently. Was that? Yeah, that was the weekend just gone, 13th in a 31:35. I noted that you. It's almost like you graded that to in the same style as your yearly rating. So that was just a fine 31:35, but I'm sure Sean and I would take that. So yeah, how are those two races? I mean, obviously they're in amongst. They're all clearly part of the. I know you said you're going to go more specifically into a training block a bit closer to the time for December, but obviously your eye is already on the prize. Everything's gearing towards that. So yeah, or correct me if I'm wrong. Were they any of your kind of like? Did you focus on those particularly? Did you sort of train specifically for those, or were they just part of the training? So tell us about Antrim and Stirling.
Yeah, so I had them both in mind as a sort of target for the end of a pre 100K block.
Yeah,
So I was kind of training with them in mind, but a bit like I was saying earlier, it's been kind of training for them whilst also trying to not go too far away from 100K training, which is a balance that is pretty much impossible to
yeah,
particularly effectively.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I was trying to do as well as I could whilst striking that balance, and I didn't really know what that would look like. Antrim was probably a wee bit slower than I was hoping for, but the weather conditions were pretty poor for the
yeah,
rain. And Stirling is about what I'd thought my training would indicate. So I was happy enough with them, but not overly excited because they're a wee bit slower than I'm used to running.
yeah,
But I think in the context of where my training is, um, they're both okay. And
yeah.
yeah,
That,
I think
that's what I
I'm pretty
thought.
set.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry,
pretty
that's what I thought.
set.
Looking at it, not a bad place to be at all with those sort of times when you know, clearly, yeah, obviously you've got your eye on the longer stuff. But also just to add to Sterling, and I'm sure Sean will appreciate this as well. I just want to say it must have been a privilege for you though to be in that race, to be part of watching Inverclyde FX Club become Scottish 10K team champions. How was that? Yeah, it must have been a great day to see Inverclyde up there, number one on the podium.
Yeah, there are a lot of black and white vests up the road in front of me. Yeah, your V40 team's pretty strong as well. So
Well, so I know I
Yeah.
can't get into it. So there you go. And I think they it was actually just one on a count back. I believe. I think they might have been level with another club, and I think by virtue of our third place score being ahead of their third place score, I believe anyway. So, but no, I just want to check as we're just talking about. So they're the races I've seen. But I believe did you again? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you do the English national 12 stage? Did Christophin send a team down? Yeah, I thought I'd seen that, and from what I saw, pretty impressive. In fact, it seems like there's obviously a I had a brief look at that this morning actually, and just from having a look at the times, it looked like you had a fairly kind of solid team on the long legs, fairly sort of consistent. I mean, I think the guys were obviously sort of holding their own in respect to you, sort of where you're at, maybe one or two quicker. And yeah, you weren't. You know, and Central obviously historically got a good pedigree down there, and I think you were just a couple of minutes behind them over obviously a hell of a lot of running 12 stage. So that you obviously had a pretty decent. How was that? Have Storfin done that? Have you been part of that day before? And how did you find that? Was it Sutton Park? I'm guessing.
yeah, Sutton Park, that's right. Yeah, so Kirkstorfen I think the first time they went down was in 2012. So
Right.
there's been I think there's been a couple of missed years in there, but
Okay.
yeah, they've gone down quite a few times. I think I've
Right.
done it maybe four or five times before.
Okay.
Um, so and yeah, this year was actually only 2 weeks after the 100K, so
Right.
it was quite a short turnaround for me, but it's a
Okay.
really good event, and it's yeah, it's always an honor to be part of the team down there. It's pretty tough competing over 12 stages. It amazes me every time how strong some of the English clubs.
Yeah.
Some of them have got B teams that are really high up as well, which is pretty crazy when you compare it to the sort of numbers that we have up in Scotland. But yeah, it's a really good event to go
Yeah.
down.
I'd
So
say I'd seen that actually. I think Leeds AC's B team I think was pretty well placed. But listen, from a personal point of view, it's great to see you running for a Scottish club there. And because unfortunately, you talk about the strength of the English team, you get a lot of these guys, you know, that are running for clubs like Belgrave and Newham and Essex Beagles that are actually run for other clubs up in Scotland. You know, these guys that don't. It's good to see you representing your team. So fair play to you. Extra kudos for that. I think.
yeah, gotta rep the club.
That's it, mate. Yeah. Sean, is there anything else you wanted to come in with, mate?
No, you're going a bit Kistorfen there at 12 stage. Yeah, I think at one point, I think Kistorfen were the club that were kind of challenging Central at the national a couple of times, and
Right.
yeah. It was like going with the 6-man team in February. It was some at some points, it was like nipped up between Central and Kistorfen. So are we going to see Kistorfen challenging this season at all?
You never know. I think we're still pretty strong over the six stages when you get, or the six counters when you get to National Cross. So, yeah, you never know, but Central they're relentless, aren't they? They're
Yeah,
so aggressive at getting their team out and everyone peaking at the right time. And there's definitely a few other clubs who could be in the mix this year, Inverclyde included, if you get everyone out. So that's always the challenge, getting
Yeah.
everyone in the right day. And it's the one that Central are extremely consistent at doing.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I did clearly. I've done it a few times myself in the past, running for Blackheath and Bromley or Blackheath Harriers back in the day as we were then. And I've tried on a couple of occasions tried to sort of rouse the troops, and say like, yeah, let's get an Inverclyde team out. You never know; it might happen one day. But again, like you say, it's all kind of on there. It's all like ifs and buts, isn't it? It's all we've certainly on paper some of the caliber of athletes we could put out, and then we could certainly sort of hold our own. I've always said for me, I mean, well, to be honest, even that's a pipe dream at the minute because I'm nowhere near fit enough. But I'd like it if we could, if I was fit, if I was running really well, whatever that may be these days, I'd like it so I could get to a stage where I'm like maybe the sixth slowest on a long leg or whatever. So I'm kind of just about squeezing into the team. And if we've got guys all running quick, I mean, obviously, yeah, I'm not going to sort of name names, but we saw a few of the guys at the 10K, and we've got lots of other guys missing or guys that have now gone over to America or X, Y, and Z, or running, higher or different places, different training groups. But yeah, I'm sure you could say this is the same for Christoph. And if you could get everyone out really fit on that day, then it could be pretty exciting. But you never know.
so see, here's another question of like you and Jenny. So Jenny runs for Fife, you run for Christophin. So say it like on the morning of like say a national cross country or like the East cross country championships, is it like you both wake up, you don't speak to each other, you eat your breakfast in silence, you take separate cars to the race and stuff? Is that how it is, or is it quite friendly?
Uh, yeah, we don't speak to each other for the week before. Don't want to give any secrets away, and yeah, it's really competitive. No, we're yeah. It's yeah. I'm a Fife supporter as well as a CAC runner, but
Yeah, I see
yeah,
Fife had quite a good.
favorite
Well,
Scottish club.
they had the boy from the Paralympics. Is it Ben
Yeah, Ben
Sanderland?
Sunderland. Yeah,
Yeah, that's incredible. That's what two Olympics in a row he's won, and then they broke the
it
world
was
record.
Owen Miller the Paralympics before. It was another Fifer who won it in Tokyo. So they've got some serious pedigree over the Paralympic 1500, and they've also had Derek Ray going to the Paralympics a number of times as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're doing incredible things.
Yeah, well, Derek Ray, he was also a guest on this podcast as
Oh yeah,
well.
so he was, yeah.
Yeah, that was some story he had, and it's amazing the level he got to after that accident and stuff as well. But it seems to be the East seem to have all these, they have incredibly strong runners, and I was talking to Chris Mackay,
Yeah.
talking to him back then, like, and here's another question for you. I remember I was no, I'm still a shit runner, but I got to a point where I think I got in a race. I think no, remember Paul Sorry,
Yeah.
and I remember I was like the first time I'd actually been running next to him in the race. Like it was a Stirling 10K actually, and I heard him breathing. I was like, "What the hell's the matter with him?" And then Chris Mackay was like, "Oh, Sean, he was like that from the first 200 meters right through to the end of the half marathon. So he's probably the loudest person I've ever heard in a race. But over your years and the higher level that you've competed at, up at the far end of the race, competing for medals, who's the kind of like, maybe loudest person that you've ran next to?
I don't know who the loudest person I've ever run next to is, but I do know that Paul Sorry used to make quite a lot of you could hear him coming. Um so I'll stick with Paul Sorry. I don't think I've got a rival off the top of my head.
No, no,
Cool.
that's just just looking back through the annals of Scottish athletics. I'm like, yeah, everyone spoke about him, then I finally experienced it for myself. I was like, yeah, he's quite loud. He breathes loud when he's racing. What about you, Pete? Have you ever had anybody, well, apart from when I was breathing down your neck getting national, but anybody else apart from that?
No, not really. To be I mean, there probably has been a few, but yeah, I don't know. I'm getting on a bit now. The races all sort of merge into one. I can remember something slightly different though. I used to take part in the British Police cross country champs, and I remember I think I was in sort of fourth or fifth. I was trying to probably a year I was trying to qualify to make the European Police cross country champs, and there was an older guy. Like I think I was still a senior then, so or just under 35, but he was a bit old. He was a strong, sort of rugged runner. He'd been around the block, like he was experienced, and I was just behind him approaching a hill, and then he sort of let one rip where my nose was about 5 centimeters from his behind, and yeah, I just took in a massive lungful airful, a big lungful of what he emitted, and it was the next smile wasn't much fun anyway. So yeah, so I've had that experience, but not really from the noise. But sorry, Dougie, just moving on. Right, I think we're pretty much done. I would say it's been a privilege having you on, mate. But just I don't think I mentioned him. I mentioned a couple of guys that are helping you out with the strength training stuff. But your coach, I believe, again, I don't know him myself, but Lewis Walker. So obviously he's done some great work with you. I was just really looking to see if you had any other races planned in the future coming up, if there's any sort of key targets or anything in the preparation for your World 100K Championships.
No, so I won't race before the 100K. I don't think
Okay.
there isn't really anything that fits within that in that sort of training. So no races between now and December, and yeah, I've got a few things in mind for next year, but
Yeah,
sort of pretty much focused on the 100K
good.
on the 100K just now, and then I'll work out what I do next after that.
Good man. And just out of interest, have you been in touch? Have you had much contact with Rico, Mr. Richardson, your fellow GB debutant for the 100K race representing GB and Scotland? Have you spoke to Chris much?
Yeah, a few messages here and there. So yeah, Chris, I'm sure will be very exact in his training as I think he has been before, and yeah, I'm sure he'll be arriving on the start line as prepared as he can be. And yeah, it's great to have two Scots in the team,
Yeah, definitely.
and what is a really really strong GB team as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll both contribute to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. Well, I'm sure I don't. I mean, you might already. We'll talk later. You can let me know, but I'm sure it's gonna. There'll hopefully be a link somewhere, or be televised, or certainly somewhere on the internet or YouTube. But I'll be definitely. I don't know what the time difference will be like, but I'll be intrigued to watch that. That'll be exciting. Even if it's a question of just some dot watching or whatever, on a tracker, then I'll be up for that for a good. I don't know, 6 hours, 15 minutes, something like that. That should be good. But yeah, no, best of luck, mate. Really excited to see how you get on there, and yeah, hope you smash it, mate. So good luck.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.